I'm definitely a little late on this. It's like March, but I don't care. I think it's fun to talk about games in the near future. Stuff I'm looking forward to. I got a list of about 10 games, and I just kind of wanted to put them out there, put it on record, stuff that I'm really hyped to play this year. I got about 10 games, but it's going to be an interesting year. I think we need to have a bigger conversation about exactly what is and isn't coming this year. I'll get to that in a little bit, but let's just jump in. I'm looking forward to hearing your lists, so definitely I want to say that before I go any further. Give me a top 10 instead of just being mad at mine in the comments. I want to hear yours too. First on my list is Biomutant. I really want to play this because it's weird. It seems a little unconventional and different, despite the framework being a lot of other things we've played. It's open world action adventure with some RPG elements, but the concept of you creating your own character, and it's like a squirrel-like critter with some of the airship stuff and just the way there are guns and swords and there's a sci-fi element to it all. I think this could be pretty fun. I see this as a game where I'm like, yeah, I'll definitely jump into that, turn my brain off, and explore this weird world. This game has been in the works for a really long time, and it's been delayed and pushed. I saw it at a convention years ago, I think like PAX East, and I'm just very, very curious to see what has finally come of it. It's been a long ride. We've mentioned it on so many Games Ranks videos, and I just want to play it. The second thing, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. It got delayed this morning as I was recording this video. Like, it's something that we should have seen coming. There's been leadership issues and stuff like that behind the scenes. Now, essentially, they're changing developers. The developers are stepping off of this project, and they said that it's not going to be released in 2021, obviously, because a new studio is jumping on board to work on this game. This sucks. I know I was getting kind of like, I was taking a risk by anticipating this game this year with everything that's been going on, but now this is a nail in the coffin, but I'm still keeping it on my list, damn it, because I can't think of anything else right now. I was just excited at the concept of like a new vampire RPG game. I love vampires and vampire lore so much, and I just thought this game had a ton of potential. But I guess now, at the very least, more people can go back and play the original awesome PC game. Something a little more unconventional, something I'm really looking forward to is Humankind. This is really releasing April 22nd, and it is a 4X game. Seems straight up very much like a competitor to Civ. It's going after Civ's lunch. It seems like it has some different tweaks to the formula and just how it's going to embrace history and molding cultures together. I think that's cool if they take that a step further than how it is in Civ, where it's just kind of on a spreadsheet. I love Civilization games very much, but I'm really curious to see a different spin on it, especially one that's like published by Sega. That's really weird, but there was like a trailer for this during one of the big events last year. I was like, all right, cool, but like looking into it, the more I've read up on it, I'm just really excited to dive into it. I love these types of games. I'll always take an excuse to play another one, especially a little bit more of a fresh take on a familiar franchise. There's another questionable one on my list if we're moving on. Dying Light 2. I think it's going to come this year. It has been in the works for a very long time. Last year, of course, it was delayed inevitably, and here we are now. I still think we're going to see it. There have been some changes in the leadership, I believe, and on the writing department in this game. But I still think we can see it this year, and I'm looking forward to it. It has had, like I said, a long development. I think there have been some changes and some tweaks here and there, but just the concept of what they were going for with Dying Light 2, I've seen it. I've seen the gameplay. I've seen it in motion at various E3s and events. It seems really cool. The story changes and the way the story choices can impact the world itself around you and this new society in the post-apocalypse seems like a really cool concept, especially with some of the writers involved and just how they're going about it. It seems like a big jump from the first game, a game which I really loved gameplay-wise and support-wise. It was like the gift that kept on giving. They kept adding so much cool content to Dying Light that it was always good to go back, and it was like a $60 game, and by the end, it felt like a freaking $80 game. Another one I got is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I just love Ratchet and Clank games. This one looks incredible. I'm really excited to have something cool to play on my PS5. And yeah, there's not too much else to say about it because honestly, weirdly enough, Sony hasn't shown much from this game. Even with the announcement of the release date recently, that was the release date is June 11th, they didn't really show any new gameplay. All we've seen is that quick snippet of Ratchet jumping through worlds, and I'm curious to see what else the game has. That being said, it doesn't matter too much because I know if it plays like a Ratchet and Clank game with fun new twists and adventures and stuff, I'm in. 100%. This is gonna sound crazy, but like I know also Horizon Zero Dawn, the sequel, Horizon Forbidden West, might squeak in this year. I'm personally more excited about Ratchet and Clank. Those are just more my type of games. The original Horizon I really liked, but it wasn't like the end-all be-all game of the year for me. I know now everybody's clicking dislike. I'm sorry. Let's move on. Another one is Gotham Nights. On paper, and hearing about it, I heard about it before it was announced, and I was like, But now, seeing it and just knowing what it is and just kind of getting over it, and hearing that it's not completely just a games as a service game, it's more of a cooperative focused experience, at least that's what they've said, I really want to play it. I think there's a lot of potential here for them to mess around and do stuff without Batman. In the last couple of years, have went headfirst back into some newer DC Comics runs involving Batman and specifically the Bat family. And as someone who has always been like a diehard Batman fan, but never really went super deep into the individual Bat family stories, I have a newfound appreciation for them. I think they can tell incredible stories about people surrounding one crazy individual and what goes on. And so with this story concept of Bruce Wayne and Commissioner Gordon being dead and it up to them, I think it's really, really cool. And I think it's going to be good for other people like me to get exposed to these Bat family characters. Not to mention the fact that like they tease the Court of Owls stuff. I'd be happy to see that in a video game. If anything, if they go like a new interpretation, if they do their own spin on the Court of Owls, that could be even cooler because I thought the Court of Owls was like a really, really cool idea. The execution, like almost, but they could take it further and I would love to see that. Then in April 30th, Returnal is releasing. I believe it's a PlayStation console exclusive and I'm going to be all over this game because I like the developer's previous games. Housemarque makes some cool shit. Resogun, when it was on like launch PS4, I was so addicted to, and this kind of seems like the next evolution of a lot of the games they've been making by bringing it into like a fully 3D environment. It just seems sci-fi as hell, chaotic, crazy, shooting with some deeper elements, just enough to kind of hook me more long term. Also, the fact that the protagonist is a woman, maybe in like her 40s, 50s, just a little different, just kind of like a fresh take on things. I don't know, that seems unique. But just the way the developer handles like the shooting, the on-screen chaos, the atmospheric effects, the particle effects, all of that, I'm so excited to see this game in motion and get to blasting, especially with the DualSense controller, see how that goes. This is a rough one because like considering what it is, this is a $70 full-priced game, this new future where games cost even more in the United States. So I'm curious to see. I think that's a steep asking price for a game of this style. I'm still going to buy it because I have to make videos and stuff, but that's my one caveat. I'm still really, really pumped. Then May 14th, Mass Effect Legendary Edition is releasing, and I'm going to be jumping into that. I'm really excited to just really dive in, maybe take off a bunch of time and just sit there and binge Mass Effect, because that's how I like playing them. And for years, I just lean back in my chair and I go, I really should replay Mass Effect 2. And then I never do. And I've done that for like 5 years straight. So now I finally get to I have a reason. I mean, I've always had a reason, but now I have even more of a pressing reason to replay Mass Effect 2 and replay all the other games. I think Mass Effect 1 gets too much shit. I think it's great. And I'm really excited to see that it's just getting tweaked a little bit, upgraded a little bit. I can't wait. Then on March 26th, we have It Takes Two releasing. This is from developer Hazelight. That's the Joseph Fares Fuck the Oscars guy. That's his team. So they made A Way Out, and A Way Out was one of my favorite games the year it released. Just the moment of like playing through the entire thing on the couch with a friend, the way the game was designed around co-op experiences and kind of keeping it well-paced and fun and interesting and like you communicating with your friend, insanely creative. And I'm so happy that they're taking that concept again, even further with this, It Takes Two. They actually dubbed this game a romantic comedy, which I think that's really cool. I'm not like really a big fan of romantic comedies or anything, but like I think like taking that genre and labeling it as a video game one, we don't see very often. So I'm like, all right, cool. Hell yeah. Something different. I think this one is going to be massively underrated, especially if they pull off like the pacing and the fun factor that they did with A Way Out. I was like annoying and preachy about that game. It Takes Two could happen also. I really hope it turns out good. Oh boy. One of my most anticipated games is Halo Infinite. Just because I want to see what the deal is. What's going on? Yeah, everybody was like bitching about the graphics and stuff, but for me, more gameplay wise, I was looking at it and I'm like, I understand they're going back to basics, but like, what are they doing here? What's the core philosophy behind the design? So I'm really excited to see, like, after more time in the oven, you know, presumably a substantial amount of time in the oven, I'm really excited to see where this goes, and I'm dying to play it. I like the Halo games. I play through all of them. I enjoy them. I'm not what you would call a diehard crazy Halo fan. I had moments where I was addicted to the multiplayer, but I think there is so much of a spotlight on Halo. There was a big spotlight on Halo with the launch of the next generation Xbox console. What are they going to do? How are they going to be back on top? Halo was the king for a while. Let's see what happens. Lastly, though, and I know like this list wasn't really in a particular order, but this one is in an order. At number 1, my most anticipated game this year, you've probably heard me say this before, is Resident Evil Village. I just really am curious to see where this story is gonna go. I am invested now. As someone who was skeptical of Resident Evil 7 and was still skeptical by the end of Resident Evil 7, I at least found this new story interesting. Would love it to tie into old Resident Evil more. Curious to see if it could in this new one. Whatever, but Ethan Winters, a little bit of Chris Redfield. Where's it going to go? What's going to happen? I can't wait. I love horror games. I love the concept of some elements, the village, the spooky town with a haunted castle element of like Resident Evil 4 being implemented here, the inventory system, but also hot vampire ladies. I like vampires a lot, like I said earlier. That's cool. This is dropping May 7th, and you know, I can't wait to play it. I found Resident Evil 7 like an incredibly tense, stressful experience in that good survival horror way. I blasted through it in one sitting. I'm curious to see if I could do it with this one, even if it's unhealthy to do so. But I just really want to know what's going on with Chris Redfield. Like, what's the deal? He looks more like real Chris Redfield, but he's being a bad man. Not to mention the Maiden demo that released. At least I think it released on PS5. I'm sorry if you don't have one. I'm not like bragging. Everybody always says that but the demo was really cool. It was a different experience. Like, you're not playing as Ethan. It's just kind of like you see some of the environments, you see the hot vampire lady. There's some lighting. There's some really impressive graphic stuff going on, and that was like the cool. I was like, holy shit! Obviously, like the Resident Evil engine that was with 7, and now this is pretty incredible, and I'm excited to see it on like a next generation type of thing or a kick-ass PC. I'm just really excited about this one, top to bottom, as a diehard Resident Evil fan from literally like day one. It's very different now, but I'm still having a blast, and I can't wait to see what comes of this. So there's some exciting stuff to look forward to, but it might not be the most jam-packed year. I know that there might be some surprises. Who knows? Bethesda could come out and be like, hey, we're putting out a game this year. There's still a lot of things that are like the great unknown. It's only February, almost March. So a lot more could happen that isn't even on my list. But I am personally still setting myself up for a quieter year. I am acknowledging that some of the games on this list that I had could be pushed even further because of the pandemic and how it's shifted development. So think about it. A lot of studios have had to work from home. Now, independent studios can work from home, no problem, I'd think, in a lot of ways, but larger, like massive scale studios scattered even more, where like it was already like some of these big AAA studios, like they had an office in Paris, they had an office in New York, an office in London, and they're all working together. That is already like very challenging to coordinate. I can only imagine how challenging it is to coordinate that once all of those studios working together break up and all start working from home. So when more and more games get delayed, and honestly from like December to now February, we've seen a lot of games get pushed. I get it. But at the end of the day, it's also worth pointing out, like, don't rush it. You know, we don't want situations where a massively hyped game comes out and it's not up to par quality wise. Take all the time you need, guys. That's my thought. But I do want to hear from you guys in the comments what you're thinking about, you know, all of the delays and how games are working out this year, but also what you're still looking forward to playing this year. Like I said in the beginning of this video, if you have your own list, like your own top 5 or your own top 10, I want to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video though, hanging out with me for this long, I appreciate it. Clicking the like button does help out this channel. I'm just trying to talk about things I really enjoy. If you're new, consider subscribing. But as always, thanks for watching. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games.